Kin is a movie I almost saw in theaters, and I'm glad I didn't. Plot is pretty simple. Boy who is a scavenger selling scrap metal for money finds an alien weapon. His older brother, who gets out of jail, comes home. Some bad circumstances lead to the death of their father, and these two brothers go on the road with this alien weapon. But our main character, the 14-year-old boy, has some major flaws in how he was written. If you're a 14-year-old boy and you find an alien weapon in an abandoned building, what is the first thing you're going to do? Wrong, you're not going to shoot it, because why would you do that? You're going to put it in a book bag and then take it home and forget about it. Or at least that's what this character does. At no point does this character act the way a 14-year-old boy would react. There's no one around. You're going to pull the trigger a few times. And there's a few times where he puts his finger on the trigger and it lights up and he's like, ooh. And then he puts it down and puts it in the backpack and walks away. And it's totally a movie convention because it's done so that when they get into their first situation while they're on the road, the boy can pull out the gun and we don't know how it's going to go. Like, is it a big explosion? Can he even shoot it? The answer is, yes, you can shoot it, and yes, it's a big explosion. Which would have been cool to see in the first act. And then that character would know that he has this huge weapon that he could protect his older brother with. But at every step of the way, the alien weapon becomes more of a hindrance to him. He wouldn't... No 14-year-old boy would react this way. At one point, he finds out that it has different modes. And he doesn't take it out to a field to find out what the different modes are. And he changes the mode in the last act of the movie, and it's like an ion beam. It frankly looks exactly like the normal explosion that this weapon was causing. And the older brother's like, whoa, we shouldn't put it on that mode anymore. Yeah, let's don't explore the alien weapon at all, guys. And once again, we have our favorite segment of the show, setting up a cinematic universe. This movie sets up a cinematic universe. That's probably never going to happen because this movie didn't make any money. No one saw it. No one knows about it. It's not good. Slingshot is a documentary film about inventor Dean Kamen. And that name probably won't ring a bell for 99% of you, so I will now explain who he is and what he's done. He was the guy who pioneered pump-based delivery of medicine. So insulin pumps and things like that is a Dean Kamen invention. He also invented a wheelchair that has wheels on the back and a triangle formation that rotate so that the person in the wheelchair can get upstairs. But his most famous invention is the Segway. And this documentary goes through Dean's life and how he invented these things. And it picks up in progress on what he's working on now, which is a self-sustaining water cleaning system. They call it Slingshot, hence the title. So as you may expect, this is not an easy product to develop. It's very complicated, they're very bulky, they're very heavy, the parts are very expensive. And Dean's goal is a noble one. He wants to get these to third world countries where people don't have access to clean running water. So the film follows Dean through several stages of development as he works to get this product not only feasible and working in the places where they need to be working, but cheap enough that he can mass produce them. And Dean Kamen is an amazing and very interesting guy. So this movie never failed to be intriguing. I didn't know going into it that he had developed the Coke freestyle machines that we see in fast food restaurants to this day. And that was a bit of a I scratch your back, you'll scratch my back situation, in that he needed to use Coca-Cola's distribution channels to get the Slingshot into these countries. So all of that stuff is super interesting, how they have to keep changing the mold, and they deploy one machine and they learn 50 things that they need to improve for the next one. They're kinda alpha and beta testing these things as they go, and they're very expensive devices. So every change costs money. It's just a fascinating look at someone who's trying to use his genius to better the world. There's a bit of the inventor thing going on. Remember that documentary? I think it was episode 1 of the show. It might have been episode 1. I don't remember at this point. That movie had a problem that it was almost put out too soon. It was no fault of the filmmakers. Things developed after the film was released that changes the story a little bit. That happens here. Dean Kamen's machine is big, bulky, and expensive, and then Life Straw came out. And while Life Straw might not make the water as clean as Dean Kamen's machine, it wins the war of convenience and size and price. Life Straw somewhat made a better mousetrap, and Dean Kamen didn't. But that's no fault of the filmmakers. This was an intriguing, interesting look into the mind of a guy who has influenced American life that you might not even know about. The Phantom stars Billy Zane and Kristy Swanson, and it's boring. I honestly forget what the plot of this movie even is. I'm gonna bet Evil Corporation. Oh yeah, it was, yeah. Hey, guess what, everybody? It's an evil corporation. Anyway, the film surrounds the discovery of 3 skulls that are hidden across the globe, and when you get the 3 skulls together, you have unlimited power. It's your generic pulpy action-adventure plot. And there's a bad guy who wants to get all 3 skulls, and then there's the hero that wants to stop him, and the hero is the Phantom, who we learn in the last act, for some reason, is one of a long line of people playing the Phantom. Phantom doesn't have superpowers, he has guns. He's like Batman without the money and the gadgets. Or the charisma. Or the secret hideout. Or the butler. He's not really like Batman. I feel like this movie wanted to be a very pulpy, very over-the-top action movie. I think like The Rocketeer. But none of these actors have that kind of chemistry, that over-the-top, fast-moving, zany energy. It's all very paint-by-numbers, very dull. This film would almost be better if it played out like a 1950s radio drama with that kind of, you know, that kind of energy. Until I don't write these, how would I write? Anyway, feels very B-movie-ish. Doesn't have the energy needed to be kind of campy and 50s inspired. Just ends up being pretty dull and forgettable.